I got it.
All right. What's up, everybody? This is the KID Astronaut Podcast, Episode 3. My guest today is Jonina Diele.
What's up?
And we are here in Denver at the Pod Space. This is run by We Are Denver. If you are a podcaster, please check them out. And if you are not a podcaster and you like podcasts, just watch our podcast. Watch all the episodes.
Even if you don't like podcasts, you'll like this one.
You will love this one, especially today, because we have Jonina in here who is super dope. So first of all, please introduce yourself.
I'm Jonina. What should I share? What do you want to know?
Everything, whatever you want people to know about you. Yeah.
I like hip-hop and dogs. Just kidding. There's more to me than that.
Those are two good things, though. I love hip-hop. I love dogs.
I am an aspiring stylist. I like fashion photography, too. I love sourcing vintage. I like making my own clothes, too, teaching myself how to sew and, like, make things right now. Dabble in a lot of things, a little bit in poetry, too. A little bit in...
Have you ever posted your poetry? Is there somewhere we could read that?
I have one poem on Instagram.
Okay.
Like
so,
somewhere way down there.
Follow Jonina. Yep.
And somewhere on Twitter.
Are you going to put up more?
Maybe. I haven't been writing lately, and I probably should be.
Okay.
But I've been feeling inspired lately, so maybe soon.
We were kind of talking about these guys from London, the PAQ crew, and
yes.
There's someone named Shaq, and he writes poems.
Yeah.
Do you follow him?
I do follow him.
That kind of reminds me of that. They're like a fashion group. But yeah, so what kind of got you into fashion? Like, what started your love for that?
I mean, I've loved it for a really, really long time. Just like even before I even realized how much I was into it. And just recently I started actually getting into it and kind of pursuing it in the past year or so. I graduated from college a year ago, actually, last December. And like I love my degrees and I love school and everything, but I kind of realized that I didn't want to pursue anything that I got my degrees in. So,
what was that? What did you get your degrees in?
Journalism and ethnic studies, and then I got a minor in creative writing.
Okay.
So, I mean, creative writing I'm still doing. But as far as journalism, because like the two kind of overlapped, I suppose. Ethnic studies is, I can. That was my goal in it. And I wrote for 303 magazine for a while, which is a wonderful publication, and you should follow them and read all their stuff and go to all their events and everything if you can.
Shout out.
Which I really enjoyed, but I just kind of figured out like I was writing about all of these incredible people. Wrote about you, of course, a few times. And I was just like, wow, all of these people are really like living their dreams and doing things that they love. And I was like, I want to be doing that and like being one of those cool people instead of just writing about them, you know?
Yeah.
So I spent some time like at the beginning of the year trying to figure out what that looked like for me, and like took a bunch of like rec center art classes and just like random stuff, and it eventually just kind of led me to fashion. And that for me kind of goes hand in hand with like body image and body positivity, because growing up it was always something that I tried to hide behind, you know, like
What was?
Clothing, I guess, and fashion. Like, I mean, I've essentially been fat my entire life, which also, fat isn't a bad word, even though everyone thinks it is. It's just a descriptor.
Okay.
But
I like that.
I totally forgot what I was saying.
You tried to hide behind your clothes.
Oh, yes. Okay. And so, like...
That's my job. I get to, like, listen. You know what I'm saying?
And so that was just kind of what I did, like, in high school, and even just, like, when I was super young, just, like, trying to always find the look that was the most flattering or the most slimming, or, like, what I could do to make myself more, I guess, palatable and acceptable, like, in society. And, like, I mean, I guess, like, my relationship with clothing has changed a lot now. But I always cared about it because of that I thought that it was something that I needed to, like, I don't know.
So what's your relationship with clothes now?
I I mean, I think it's complex. Like, one thing that I think people, I mean, at least like straight size people, which is like a weird term, but people who aren't plus size. Like, I think something people that people have no idea about is like how difficult, especially like for fat femmes, how difficult it is to find clothing, like how different that experience is. Like, the idea of walking in to any store and like being able to find something that fits you is like so foreign to me. Like, I like have never, even when I was like in high school and I like wasn't like really like fat, I guess. Like, I mean, that's weird that like there's different ideas of fatness, but like I just have never had that luxury. And so like, especially as someone who cares about fashion and who like loves being creative and creating looks and stuff, like that experience is so different, because it's like I can't just like, half the time if I want to find something that I'm not like thrifting or something vintage, like I have to go online. Like, I don't have the luxury of just like walking in somewhere, like walking into like Urban Outfitters or like
H&M.
Yeah, like any of those. Like,
are there any clothing companies that you do see kind of creating spaces for like, I don't know, plus size clothes?
I mean, I guess Forever 21 has a plus size line that like is pretty great. ASOS, like those are my two go-tos. That's kind of it.
So do
But,
you
like,
think that should change? Like, are you kind of advocating for
totally.
that?
Like, I think what I would like to change about the fashion industry is like to like, I guess not eliminate the idea of plus sizes, but like it should be the standard that we have.
There are different body types.
Yes.
Basically.
Like,
Yeah.
because the other thing, like even these like companies that do make plus size stuff, like I think H&M makes some plus size stuff, but it's like you have to get it online. But it's always different styles. Like, even like, I love Rihanna, praise her, but like the Savage Fenty stuff, like all of the best shit from there. Sorry, can I cuss?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I say fuck, shit. This is a free space. Yeah.
But like all of the like really cool, like really out there, like Savage stuff, none of that is in plus sizes, which like it's cool that like she's very inclusive as far as like the campaigns, and the models and all of that, but like, and that even that she does have plus stuff, but like it's always like all of it, like if you go and look, it's all kind of like the grandma bras, like the more conservative, just like everyday panties, and there's a couple things, but like the really cool like sexy stuff, like she doesn't have that in plus sizes, and that's kind of the standard, that it's like even Forever 21 plus size stuff, they have a pretty wide range, like thousands of styles, maybe not thousands, but they have a lot of styles, but it's still like probably an eighth of what they have for straight size stuff, and like that's the case pretty much everywhere.
So are you, as a fashion designer, kind of steering your work towards that? Like, is that a marketplace that you want to see yourself work in?
I think so. Like, I think if, like, eventually if I ever have my own line, that everything will range from, like, super small, like, extra small to, like, at least, like, 4 or 5X, at least. Because even everything, when they do carry plus size stuff, it stops at 3X, which is really not that inclusive. Like, it's hard to find really, like, I don't know. I don't think people take for granted, like, smaller people when they're going to create looks, like, the ease that comes with for them. Which, I mean, it's like, it's still work if you're trying to come up with something, like, really out there and, like, creative and revolutionary, but, like, the options are so much more limited for fat people, and I don't think people really consider that. Like, I was talking to one of my friends about it, because I work at a boutique in Denver, which is incredible, and I love it, and it's really opened my eyes to...
Do you want to shout them out?
Yeah. Judith and Joe.
Judith and Joe.
They're on 31st and Blake, in the Backyard on Blake complex, which the entire, like, that entire
complex.
Yeah,
Cool.
I guess. I don't know what that's called. What it
The
actually is
block.
called.
The neighborhood.
Yeah. All of the businesses there are really great, and they're mostly femme-owned, which is also incredible. But they've opened my eyes to ethical fashion, too, which, like, obviously I always knew was important, but I didn't know how rare it is, which I really appreciate, because now going forward in my fashion career, that's something that I really want to, like, make a priority also.
That's dope.
Yeah. But even with that, like, I love working there, but, like, it only goes up to size large. And which also, it's hard because, like, that market, like, where they are in the location, and, like, Denver in itself, like, we always still have, like, larges left on the rack, you know? But, like, I don't know of a single boutique, which I might be missing something, but, like, I don't know of a single boutique in Denver that carries plus sizes. Or really, like, I mean, I've never been to one personally, even traveling.
Have you known of any other places in the States or overseas maybe that are, like, you know, gearing their work towards that? Like, is there anyone that you know of?
I mean, there's tons of, like, really incredible bloggers and, like, designers and femmes and stuff out there doing really incredible work. I don't know as far as, like, there's a lot of online shops.
Right.
I don't know about any, like, brick and mortars.
Okay.
But one of the women I follow that's, like, a plus-size designer and blogger, that she started out just, like, starting her own blog because she liked clothes, you know. And now she has, like, her own line, and she's doing all of these collaborations. Like, she did this really cool lingerie collaboration not too long ago. And there was a whole video campaign and everything, and, like, just, like, being able to, like, see, like, a fat woman, like, in her bra and underwear, like, walking around being sexy and, like, doing shit that you see, like, petite women do all the time, like, was really empowering and awesome. But she had an interview that I read that was, like, not any, but the vast majority of plus-size women that, like, are interested in fashion or styling or whatever are gonna want to design, because we never
Get your own.
Yeah, like, we never get to see what we would like to wear, like, in our size, you know? It's always, like, seeing all these styles, like, scrolling through Instagram or whatever, and, like, wow, I really like that look, but if I wanted it, I would have to make it, yeah. Which is what got me into making clothes in the first place, you know? But, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's, like, there's good and bad in that, because I think I'm excited to see the kind of clothes that you come up with. And I think also because you're creating the ethical brand ideas, and I don't know, I think you'll have a lot of cool ideas. But there's somebody that we both follow. Her name is Lizzo, and I see you post about Lizzo a lot. Can you talk about her?
Love of my life. She's incredible. Like, she has contributed so much to my self-worth and self-love, and, like, the first time in my entire life that I've, like, seen someone with a body like mine, like,
go all out, just flaunt it.
Yeah. And just, like,
she's real about it.
I just, like, I don't know, everything about her, like, her music is incredible, and, like, I think, I mean, something that's really important to me for a multitude of reasons is representation. Because I think in any capacity, like, in any identity, like, if you don't see something, like, if something doesn't exist for you to see, it's hard to imagine yourself, like,
going there.
Yeah, being worthy of that thing, you know? And, like, just seeing her, like, be on stage and, like, post photos of her naked, or post photos of her twerking, or, like, talk about being in relationships and talking about being loved, and, like, all of those things that, like, I grew up my entire life never thinking that I could do or be worthy of. And seeing her out there doing it has just been, like, extremely revolutionary for me and a lot of, like, fat femmes that I know. Like, it's extremely, extremely powerful, for sure. I want that Like, I want that to be the standard. Like, it's, like, the fact that that's so rare and the fact that it's, like, the first time I've seen it. And the fact that I still can't, like, go on Netflix and, like, find, like, a romantic comedy with, like, a fat person in it. Like, a fat person is a love interest, not, like, some, like...
best friend.
Yeah.
Like, comedy.
Like,
yeah.
side character.
Yeah,
side character that, like, it's either... Whenever we see, like, fat femmes in any, like, sort of TV or movie or whatever, it's all about, like...
Or fat men, too.
Yeah, fat men, too.
Fat men,
sure.
too, are usually that comic sidekick, which...
Totally.
I mean, I think this conversation will hopefully open people's minds. Like, oh man, I haven't seen that.
Totally.
All right, so Jonina's coming out with fashion. She got movies on the way. She's gonna be in Netflix. No, I'm just kidding.
I
but
mean,
maybe,
that would be dope.
Yeah, that would be
I would
cool.
love, because I mean, also like, I don't know, it's very far off in the distance, but I would love one day to be able to like write films or write TV shows and like make that representation exist, because like the same thing goes for like my queerness, that like never seeing that when I was growing up and thinking that it was so like, I mean, especially like being someone with like I guess a more fluid queerness, that like I'm not like only attracted to like cis women, that like I just never seeing that either. Like, I couldn't think it had existed for me. Like, because I have an attraction to cis men, I was like, well, there's no way I can, like, be into girls, too. Like, that's not a thing. Like, I always heard that, like, women, bisexual women were just, like, looking for attention. Or, like, you know, like, that kind of, like, really toxic narrative. That just, like, I don't know, if I ever saw a TV show with, like, a queer, fat femme like fall in love, I would just be like, wow. Yeah, like this can exist. Like this is so crazy. Like, wow, I'm worthy of love and all of those things, you know.
Well, if it's not on the way, I hope that you create that brand or that voice.
I hope so too.
Just because I think you are that voice and you are being that voice right now. I think that's dope.
Thanks for giving me the platform.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So I want to talk about your thrifting.
Okay.
So you just recently did Thrift Con.
Yep.
How was
Yesterday.
that? What was your experience?
It was cool. It's the second one I've done.
And what is Thrift Con for the people that may not know?
So it's put together by the guys from Station, which is a streetwear boutique in Denver. And it's like, I guess what it sounds like, just this huge convention of like 60 or 70 vendors selling from their own personal vintage collections. Or I guess
Where is it? Where did they?
So the
hold
last
Thrift Con?
one was at this warehouse in Globeville. The one before that was like, I don't know. They're always in the general 5 Points area. Yesterday was the third one they've done. I did this one and the one before it in August.
Cool.
And it was really cool. This one was a little quieter than the one I did in August. A little slower, I think, just because when it was...
Colder?
Yeah, like it was cold as shit. No one wanted to go outside. If I didn't have to be outside, I wouldn't have. I mean, it was indoors, but it was still really
still
cold.
like you gotta get to your car. That walk
Totally.
is brutal.
Yeah,
Low key.
It is, and like the first like 3 minutes in your car before the heat kicks in.
It sucks.
It does suck.
Yeah.
It really
Colorado,
sucks.
man.
But yeah, and I think people like, I mean, even like at the boutique too, like I think people just like went all out Black Friday weekend and are like, okay, I need to like
Slow down. Yeah.
You know.
Christmas is coming. So what got you into thrifting?
So it like really, I mean that goes with like, I've always loved vintage stuff, like as long as I can remember, just like old movies. Like I've always been really obsessed with the 90s, like old 90s movies, 90s hip hop, and 80s, just like old styles. Like it sounds so cliche, but it's like, I feel like some things just aren't made how they used to be. Like I think in the age of social media and stuff, which I mean, social media is amazing, and I wouldn't like be pursuing the things I'm pursuing if I didn't have them. But like, it's very easy for mainstream things to exist more, I think, and for like even styles that we consider like alternative or like out there or whatever, I think a lot of it still ends up kind of being copies of itself, you know?
Sure.
But I just always like have been attracted to vintage things because of like the uniqueness. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah.
But like the uniqueness of it, like knowing that like also knowing that like finding things at a thrift store. Well, one, also financially, obviously. Like I can't afford to be going out here and like funding all of the looks and all of the styles that I love, like without thrift store prices.
Mm-hmm.
But also like knowing that things had a life before they made it to your body, like knowing that someone was out there like rocking this shit in the 90s, like just like I don't know, that idea is really fascinating to me. Also like decreasing kind of clothes that end up in landfills.
Yeah, like
and,
waste,
yeah, and like trying, I mean, like I have mixed feelings about places like H&M and Forever 21 that have these like really affordable styles, because like obviously that's great for folks who financially like would like those styles and can't go buy designer or nicer stuff. But also like we keep crunching those prices like as consumers and as those like corporations, but then like that like only makes the practices and situations and stuff for folks that are making these clothes in other countries worse, you know. And like the conditions for them are terrible, and not only what it like means for those folks, but what it means for the environment too. So trying to like avoid supporting that as much as I can, although it's inevitable sometimes. But also just like that is another way that I've been able to find really cool pieces, like as a plus size person, that like I just always have luck finding more unique things, you know.
Thrifting.
Yeah, but
So it sounds like you have a pretty like wide range of like the fashion world. But my next question was going to be like, if it's not Thrift Con, where do you like release your stuff? Where do you sell?
I have a Depop. It isn't really like popping right now.
That's an online platform.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's kind of like eBay.
So hopefully this podcast helps.
Yeah, hopefully.
Added promo.
It's currently being updated. I'm slowly adding pieces that
New
like
stuff.
I didn't sell yesterday.
You see her fashion right now? You will want some stuff from Jonina.
But I mean, I don't know. I guess I like part of my collection is like part of the reason I have a collection is just being able to see things like mostly like I told someone asked me about like my collection yesterday or whatever, and I was like, essentially all of the stuff I have is like pieces that I love that are either too small or too big for me. Like it's all stuff that like I wish that I could wear or wish I could style that I just don't work on my body. And like that whole thing started from just like experimenting with styling and like asking one of my friends like, hey, can I just like buy a bunch of clothes that I think would look cool on you and then like take pictures. And that evolved into, I mean, I'm still in the very early stages of like pursuing a styling career, but that's how it started, is like going out and finding pieces that I like wanted to style or shoot people in, and then just being like, well, this is a cool piece, maybe I could like sell it to someone else and it can go have another life. And so it just kind of started as like wanting to share those pieces with people, and like Thrift Con's really the only place that I've like I really haven't sold much on Depop at all. Like it's hard to get any sort of following on there.
Would you like create your own? Because I know you have been doing event production as well. So would you create something that's like a store, like pop-up shop kind of thing?
I would like to, yeah. I think that would be really, really cool. Especially like I don't know that big of like a plus size community here in Denver. But I would really love to do something like that that's kind of exclusively for plus size folks, because like I mean there's all these really cool shops and like vintage shops and stuff like that you can go to, but it's the same kind of thing where it's hard to like find anything that like fits you. And so that's like also kind of what I started, like why I started building a collection is like, I mean, I try to get things for like all genders and all sizes and everything, but like when I can, I really try to like find plus size stuff. Because there's so many, like, I don't know, there's this like idea out there that like fat women can't be really fashionable.
Sexy.
Yeah, sexy. That's another thing. Like, that, like, especially with like lingerie and stuff, like we can be sexy and like promise people are attracted to us, and like I promise it's a thing.
Right.
So trying to like get that out into the world is something I'd like to do.
I'm hopping around a little bit.
No, that's good.
But you mentioned earlier like your sexuality being fluid. What is that process, that acceptance, that journey? What does that look like for you?
It was hard. I mean, I think it's hard for anyone. But like it's fairly new for me. Like I always knew, like I was thinking about this earlier. It's funny once like you like become comfortable and accepting of your sexuality and like you look back and you're like, wow, I was really doing some gay shit like way back in the day that I just like suppressed or like didn't notice what was happening. But like like I like recently like old memories just pop up sometimes, and I was like, I remember when I was like 5 years old just like sitting on like our like house computer or whatever and just like googling like making sure no one was watching and like googling like girls kissing.
Oh shit. That's good.
And like I mean I don't know whatever came from it, but like that like I don't know, it was always there. And like I said, like because I knew that I was like attracted to cis men, I didn't think that like
that was possible.
Yeah, like I didn't like...
Or you just didn't know that there was a spectrum.
Yeah, totally. Like I didn't like give myself space to explore any of that. Also because I didn't really like know anyone. Like I knew lots of queer folks, but not really anyone else who like identifies how I identify.
Which is just gender fluid, or not gender fluid, but sexuality fluid.
If I have to define it, like I would say,
you don't.
Yeah, but I would say pansexual.
Okay.
Just like that, I'm attracted to everyone regardless of gender.
Mm-hmm.
But I think nomenclature, like in a lot of senses, can be limiting, and I think now we're more comfortable with the idea of thinking of sexuality as something that's fluid and something that's a spectrum. But I don't think a lot of folks consider how that fluidity can also like change with time. Like it's not like sexuality isn't something that's stagnant, and you can change how you identify like many times throughout your life, and that's completely okay. And like the reason I prefer queer over pansexual, but like I'll still like identify with that sometimes, and sometimes I'll even say I'm bi, which also like the reason that I never really like identified with being bisexual is because initially when I was being more comfortable with my queerness, like that seemed gender exclusive to me, like reinforcing a binary. But I have been luckily educated that like bisexuality means being attracted not to like men and women. It means being attracted to your gender and other genders. Like that's the duality of it.
Okay.
It's not meant to like reinforce a binary, you know, which it's also different for every person. But
Sure.
like some days, like I just feel different things. Like some days I can even feel asexual, which like, I don't know, that's a whole other thing. But like, yeah, like it's very fluid. And I guess that process for me was like dark, I guess. Like it was really difficult. I had to work through a lot of trauma and self-acceptance to like get to a place where I could start like digging through what sexuality meant for me, you know.
Can I ask what was the trauma, if that's not too deep?
Yeah, so it was this trigger warning for rape. I, in college, was in my ethnic studies program. I took, well, there's a bunch of different elements to like me processing my sexuality. But
and you don't have to talk about it if you're not.
No, it's okay. I
I
think it's important.
Especially just because, like, I don't know, I hope that this is a space where people, number one, feel comfortable, but also hopefully there's somebody that's listening that might be able to take something from it, you know?
Totally. I completely
so
agree.
that's why I ask. Not
Yeah.
just being like, oh, what the fuck? You know?
No, I completely agree. But I took a class called Violence Against Women and Girls, and just went into it because, like, it's like, fuck yeah, I'm an intersectional feminist. Like, this is really important. Like, I need to learn, like, more about this, whatever. And then the first 2 weeks of the class, when we started, like, defining all of these things, defining consent, like, stuff came up for me that I realized that I had experienced those things and I hadn't allowed myself to process them. And a lot of that is because, like, I think socially, I think it's changing now, especially with Me Too and everything. But, like, for a long time, socially, I think we thought of, like, rape or, like, sexual abuse as, like, this, like, man hiding in the bushes that, like, comes out and attacks you. And, like, that's not the reality at all. Like, the vast majority of the time, it's someone that's close to you, someone that you know, and something that's, like, not this, like, being, like, violent, like, being pinned down kind of thing. Like, consent is difficult. Well, it shouldn't be difficult, but, like, it can be, it's not a gray area, but I think that, like, when we cross those lines of getting into the gray area, we don't understand, like, how that's not cool. Like, a lot of people don't understand how that's not cool. Like, people...
And what's not cool?
Like, not getting an enthusiastic yes.
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I think that socially a lot of men are conditioned to, like, try hard or convince, or, like, that they think, and even women too, like, we think that we're supposed to, like, play hard to get and not just, like, I don't know. There's so many, like, social things around gender roles and sexuality that I'm, like, getting into right here. But
how do you identify, like, in a gender scale?
As a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, she, hers.
Because you're the first woman that's been on my podcast. I've only had 2 guests before you. My first person was a two-spirit man, but he identifies as, like, both, but he still calls himself a man. But you are my first woman, and I've been like, man, I really want to have more women on my podcast. So I appreciate you for being here and representing that voice, too.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me.
I think it's important, especially the concept of, like, gender roles, and I'm glad that you brought up, you know, the things that aren't necessarily working for us. Like, women are supposed to, you know, like, play shy, whereas the men are supposed to pursue, and I could see how that creates conflict. But I think, like you said, especially with Me Too, we're kind of stepping into the nuances of these conversations, which are really important.
Totally. Super important. but yeah, that class and having things defined for me, and I remember like it's starting to come up, and like especially as like a person with anxiety too, like I just felt it like building up in my chest and like being like, okay, now this is like a physical thing that's coming up and I have to address it. And I remember just like sitting in class one day and like asking my professor, like describing my experience, and I'd be like, so if this thing happened, like, I mean, trigger warning, I'm gonna like explain my experience.
If you're cool with that.
Yeah. But like being sexually active with someone and not like avoiding, as far as like oral, and them wanting to pursue penetration and saying that you're not ready, and then they do it anyway, is that rape? And she was like, yes. Yeah. And that was the first time it clicked for me, and I was like, oh, okay. I need to evaluate like my sexual past and like my relationship with sex, which then when I took a step back from it was really unhealthy for a multitude of reasons, of like just realizing how like in the sexual experiences I was having that I was playing a completely like submissive and passive role, and that like it was for the wrong reasons that I was like in these situations, were just like what that experience taught me, because that was like my like one of my first sexual experiences, and that set the tone for like how like my relationships with cis men and like my relationships with sex, and like I had to reevaluate and be like, this is really unhealthy, and like I need to like process and dissect what this means for me in a multitude of ways. And then I think that's when I first started to like evaluate my like attraction to femmes, because like there had been like weird times where I like had like gotten drunk and like talked about wanting to like hook up with girls, and like my roommate at the time would be like, hey girl, you want to like think about that when you're sober? And so then I started to, and it was also like a lot of therapy. And then another class I took in college that like wasn't necessarily related to sexuality, but it was God, I forgot the name of the class. But it was like essentially about like criminalization, like Latino history and criminalization of like Black and brown folks. And it had a lot to do with representation. And we watched this one film that was about these like two young girls in high school that were best friends, and that they like were kind of falling in love, and like just seeing how it unfolded and seeing their experience and them not real, like just both of their parents like
not supporting it,
just being completely oblivious to the fact that like they had an intimate relationship, you know, like them like being like, they kept like being mad about them being distracted because they're like, what boys are you talking to, like what boys distracting you, and like just leaving them alone and like not thinking anything of it, and just seeing both of them themselves processing it and realizing that like they had actual intimate feelings for each other. They weren't just best friends, you know? And I just remember like watching it in class one day and then driving home, and I just like, because like that was my last class of the day, got in the car, like started driving home, and I just like started bawling, and I was like, why am I crying right now? It's like I have no idea what's going on. Like I know it was like an emotional movie, and then I was like, fuck, like if I had like seen something that's like back to representation, that I was like, if I had seen something like this when I was younger, like when I was in high school, like my entire like identity and sexual experience would have been different. And that's like when I started to confront it, and even like I would like be like, before I had even like allowed myself to identify how I identify, I would be on all of these like queer dating apps and stuff, and the first time I met a femme from like one of the queer dating apps, she was like, so like, how do you identify? Like, are you like bisexual or pan, or like what, like what's your queerness mean to you? And I was like, what? And I was like, wait, what? Like, is this like a thing? Like, am I bisexual? Like, I was just like, I was curious. I was just curious. And then like, as months went on, I was just like, wow, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my experience. Sorry, that wasn't like at all cohesive.
No, I followed that really well. So I want to keep switching topics.
Okay, no, that's great. That's great.
You got into hip hop music, like early, or what? How did that get into your life?
Just honestly, like since I was a kid, I've always loved it. Like,
other than other genres, or do you feel like you are drawn to it the most, or drawn to music the most, or just drawn to hip hop more?
Music in its whole has always been extremely important to me, like my entire life. Like my dad always loved music. He's self-taught piano player and he's absolutely incredible. Like it's still just like he just does it like in his free time.
Just sits down and just
yeah.
You're like, oh my god.
Like we've had a grand in our house since I was a kid, and just like I just remember like getting ready or like waiting to like go do something for the holidays, or just when he was bored, because I have 2 sisters and my mom, like he was the only guy in our family, so he'd always be like waiting for us to like get ready and shit, but just like that would be like the soundtrack to my day. It's just him just like going hard on the piano.
Do you play music? So yes.
I did in high school.
Okay, what'd you play?
First, well, I like this doesn't really count, but I played clarinet in elementary school.
I don't know how to fucking play a clarinet.
I don't know. I don't either anymore. I did when I was like 7. That was like my first experience with music, and then
that's kind of a whack instrument, though. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm
sorry to all the clarinets out there. I'm sorry.
No, it absolutely is. Like why? Like how is that the thing that I picked out of everything? I don't know.
Did you pick it?
Yeah, I picked it.
You were like, I want to play clarinet.
Yeah, I have no idea why. I can't.
I think you should
why.
Pull that clarinet out and just see what happens. You might be like, took me 20. How old are you?
23.
Oh, okay. Took me 23 years, but I found my love. You're like, just walking down the street, like, killing it.
Oh my god, it's just like...
Maybe. Do you still have it?
No, it was a rental, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It was someone like a 2-year...
Someone needs to let Jonina borrow their clarinet.
I wouldn't even know how... I mean, I wasn't good at it at all. I was terrible. I'm pretty sure I did it to, like, get out of, like, math class or something, because, like, the band practice was, like, during...
Same time, yeah.
But I...
Smart.
So that was like my first experience with music, which I learned how to read sheet music, which was dope, and then I forgot it completely. And then of course, I feel like with everyone in my age, I went through like emo phase through middle school, and was very, very strongly obsessed with Fall Out Boy, which is like a really cheesy like cliche. But yeah, like I recently I went through that phase or whatever and listened to it obsessively. And just like a month or 2 ago, I revisited it. I was like, I haven't actually like sat and like listened to their music since probably 8th grade. Okay. And I was like, this it's so lyrical, and I was like, this is probably why I like love lyrical shit and poetry and like just like the weird complexities of it. I was like, wow, I feel less bad and embarrassed.
Didn't Pete Wentz get like into hip hop later too? Like he started writing for more hip hop. That's his name, right?
I think yeah. I think so. But speaking of him, I was in love with him, and so that's why I was like, I'm gonna learn how to play bass. I didn't want to learn guitar or drums. I was like, Pete Wentz plays the bass, so I have to know how to play bass so I can show him one day and he'll fall in love with me. Like that was my thought process. And so I like so cheesy. Like
I need Pete Wentz to see this. I'm gonna tag him.
Oh my god. So
I'm shocked right now. Like literally, that's so awesome.
I went to Guitar Center, got some like really cheap little like starter kit for a bass. and like went to this really cool music school. That I don't like the music school itself doesn't exist anymore, but like my guitar teacher, like bass and guitar teacher, I think he's still out there, like teaching lessons and like doing stuff. Like he like invites me to random stuff on Facebook sometimes. But
Do you go?
no, I've
So
never
I see
gone.
you're not trying to impress Pete Wentz now.
No longer. No
Damn
longer.
it.
I found out his height and I was like,
Is he short? Is
yeah,
he
he's like
shorter than you?
5'7", I think. Well, he's like, if he's 5'7", that's my height. But I was like,
Do you like guys that are taller than you? Girls that are taller than
I
you?
don't know. I don't really. I mean, I guess.
If Pete Wentz walked in this room right now, what would you do?
Oh God.
Be like, Pete, here's my bass. I'm just kidding. I love you still, Pete.
Like, here's this like really awkward story of like why I love music so much. So thanks.
That's dope.
Yeah. Probably not.
But I know from your hip hop inventory, you like Brockhampton, you like
Yes.
Frank Ocean, who is
Absolutely.
not really hip hop. But is there any other artists that you're really feeling right now?
There's plenty. I have this gravitation towards Chicago artists, like a
Okay.
really strong gravitation towards like all Chicago artists.
Like
So-
Monte Booker, have you heard of him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love him.
Where's Smino
Zero
from?
fatigue. Spino's, I think he's from St. Louis and then he moved to Chicago.
Okay.
Because it's like him and Monte Booker and Raven Lenae.
hmm
Raven Lenae is incredible. I love her.
Chance, obviously.
Chance McJenkins.
Yep.
I've been really into Saba this year.
Okay.
His album Care For Me this year is like definitely one of my favorites.
What's your favorite album of all time?
Of all time,
Yeah.
To Pimp a Butterfly.
Really?
Yeah.
Kendrick's To Pimp a Butterfly. Why?
That-
Why that one?
That album made me fall in love with the concept of an album again. Prior to that, like I was never big into like listening to things from start to finish or like appreciating like albums as a work almost of something like a novel. Like I had this like fiction professor in college who he was like at the end of the semester, because we'd like gone through all these books and short stories and stuff, and he was like, okay, our last project is we're gonna analyze To Pimp a Butterfly. And this was like the year it came out, I think. He's like, we're gonna analyze this like a novel. And like we went through song by song, and just like that shit just completely blew my mind. Like I remember, because I'd been listening to it and thought it was incredible, because obviously. And then
It's really when you like read Kendrick's lyrics. that
Yes.
You're like, holy, wait,
that
what the
like
fuck?
it tells an
it's
entire
crazy.
story, and like there's different characters and like the imagery, and like I don't know. I just think it's like one of the most genius projects of our time.
I feel the same way.
And
I don't know if it's my favorite, but I definitely feel the same.
Yeah. And I think I just like at the point that I was at in my life, like being able, I don't know. Just it like revolutionized the way I think about art and creativity a lot. And just that I was like there's just so many layers to like every song, and like it's just crazy.
Word.
That if I had to pick something like off top, that's what it would be.
I like that. So we talked about this a little bit, but you are moving.
I am moving.
Where are you headed?
New York City,
Okay.
Brooklyn specifically.
Okay. What's that about?
It's just time. Like I've been in Denver my entire life and I love it here, but I have always wanted to go to New York. Just like a little fantasy I've had since I was a kid. And like I thought I was going to go to college out there, because I for some reason thought with like my average grades that I was going to get into NYU, which I'd quickly learned was not the case. But
Hey, fuck
dream
NYU. You
big.
should have taken Jonina. You need her. She doesn't need you. No, just kidding.
Dream big. But I've just always wanted to do it, and like after I graduated, I was like, okay, after I graduate, I'm gonna make the move. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I needed to figure out what I'm doing with my life first. But back to music. So my, like, okay, just kidding. Scratch the back to music thing. My best friend, he grew up in Queens. We met each other at this like really weird and random like leadership conference in high school.
Okay.
That like
I
one
love
of
leadership conferences.
yeah, that like one of my like teachers in high school like nominated me for it, and like he nominated like probably like 5 kids from our school, and everyone was like, cool, thanks. And my parents were like, no, this is an opportunity, then you're going to go, blah blah blah. Like it was in Washington DC, and I didn't want to go because
This sounds tight as fuck, honestly.
In retrospect, it was really cool, and I probably should have cared a whole lot more about it, but I did not. Yeah. I did not at all. And so I went across the country by myself, and like was just so awkward and introverted the whole time. And like at the time, it was like, I mean, it was about like government and politics, and like we met all these government leaders and did like mock trials and all of this shit, and I just like did not give a single fuck about it. And I'm like sad about it because it was such a cool opportunity, and I was just so like oblivious. But I met my best friend there. Yeah, he's a dancer, and there was like a little dance at the end, and like I remember seeing him like, 'cause for some reason, I mean I still think that he does, but like I was very into Neo at the time, and I thought that he kind of looked like him.
Neo, the singer?
Yeah. And
oh my God.
How are like all of these embarrassing like
this is so funny. This is so great. It's like the 2000s all over again.
All over again.
This is I am a time traveler, so yeah. Bring it all in.
So I thought that he kind of looked like him, and then I saw him dance, and I was like, wow, that's like really cool. Because I was on a dance team in high school and college, and was like very into it. And there's not like there wasn't like a HipHop scene in Arvada, Colorado at the time, and so like.
Oh really? You don't
say. Right, crazy. And I was just like would watch, like I was just obsessed with like watching like YouTube videos of dancers and stuff. So I saw him dance at the party, and I was like, wow, that's awesome, but I'm not going to say anything in person because like why would I do that? And because I'm awkward. So I like messaged him on Facebook afterwards, and like after the conference.
What?
Because yeah.
Oh my God.
Because we had like a few awkward interactions. Like I would see him around, and we would like make awkward eye contact, and then we were in this mock trial thing, and he was like he was like the judge, and I was like sitting there not knowing what the fuck was going on, and like the whole time they were like asking general questions to like the jury or whatever, and then he called me out specifically and was like, hey, that girl, what do you think about this? And I was like, I don't know what's going on. Like, why did you just call me out of everyone? Like, that's not what's happening here. And like that was like our first interaction, and then we just kept like awkwardly crossing paths. And so I naturally, as you do when you're like 16, I like messaged him on Facebook, and then we talked every single day after that. Like he was in New York, and I was like back here, obviously. And we just stayed in contact ever since. I saw him the next year. And you still talk to him? Yeah, he's my best friend. He's going to be my roommate in New York.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like...
That's heartwarming.
I know. He's doing big shit out there, modeling and dancing. Like, he was in a Samsung commercial a couple weeks ago, which is cool. Yeah, so...
I want to take this time, just because I got to restart my Instagram. We're still on Facebook. Okay. I'm also going to see if anyone sent us questions.
Okay.
Give me a moment. Feel free to drink your tea.
Will do.
Feel free to listen to the smooth lo-fi hip-hop sound.
Smooth jazz for millennials.
Yeah, the smooth jazz. Shout out YouTube, by the way. Nice. Got a good batch of followers on there. And we're back.
Woo.
All right, so... Oh.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to take this time to say, if there's anyone who would like to send us questions on Facebook, my Facebook is KID Astronaut. So please send us questions. I'm going to go over there and check if we have any. All right.
Martez, what's up?
That's my friend. Hey, best friend. That's my best friend. All right. So if we're not getting any questions, once again, I want to thank you for being on my podcast. I want to thank you for your honesty and just being like open. I know those can be uncomfortable topics to talk about, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk about them. Is there anything you want to plug? Is there anything you want to talk about? I'll be posting all your links to your Depop store. If you follow Jonina on Instagram, she was just posting some of her items today, so you can definitely. How should people reach out to you if they do want something?
Just shoot me a DM.
Cool.
Shoot me a DM on Instagram. Find me on Facebook. It's just Jonina Diele. That spelling, obviously, no one's gonna know how to spell that, but you'll post it.
Diele?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
But I will post it and I'll tag you and all this stuff, so they'll be able to find you.
For sure. Yeah.
Who is Martez? Is that the homie?
That's the homie. He's my coworker. Copy the point.
Oh, okay, cool.
He's an incredible dancer, professional dancer. For
Nice.
Cleo Parker Robinson.
Thank you for
Go see
tuning
their.
in. One more time, if you do have any questions, we have our Facebook over here popped up. If not, we're on Instagram Live right now. We will be on Facebook today, and I post this episode on YouTube tomorrow. Thank you to We Are Denver. I'm just going to check one more time and see. That's Miss Emily. Hello. All right. Cool. I have to plug this. I have KID Astronaut.
Yes.
Is playing Globe Hall December 12th with Kayla, Dylan, and Shalom. Please come. It will be Fuego, Fire Flames. Other than that, this is episode 3. Thank you, Jonina.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in. And we are out.